Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
Hi, this is Merps.
It's it's basically what happened last week. If you listen to the Lightforge, is we went over what was the meta, in which it was all neutral cards, and then the day after, like literally the day after, Blizzard didn't tell us about this until I want to say 2 days after, maybe 3 days after that. But literally starting the day afterwards, apparently Blizzard changed things so that all the class cards got triple the offering rates.
Did you get a haircut?
I did get a haircut.
Ooh, okay. All
Mm.
right. Big changes.
Yeah, I got a haircut. I took a shower. Now I'm in a robe, doing a podcast. This
You
is
took your
this is what's
biannual
happening.
shower? Nice.
So if you're looking at offering rates in the arena right now, and if you took a look at dual class arena like us, said this is crap, and then didn't go back to it, it's different now. Um, it is since very late on Monday or very early on Tuesday. The dual class arena really has much more of a dual class feel because I think this is what they've done. They couldn't confirm it. What happened was this information was communicated to the arena community off of a response to someone's Reddit post in Arena HS by Chalky, not Ixar this time, but Chalky, and Chalky did not answer any follow up questions after that. So what Chalky said is flat out, we have tripled the offering rates of class cards. What that means, I think, is that they tripled it off of their new base, which means it's literally just a 1-to-3 ratio. Like, I don't think the spell bonus is in, or like, because they took away the spell bonus, they took away the class bonus when they started dual class arena. I don't think those are back. I think what happened is they just tripled the base, because if those are back, you would actually see something like 7 times more class weapons than neutral minions. And I don't think that's what's happening in the arena right now. So I
Yeah.
think it's just flat out triple.
So the post that you're talking about was a post by Taro. Surprise, surprise.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
It was a post by Taro showing that, hey guys, there definitely was an increase in how class cards are being offered because he shows his work, uh,
HS
and
replay data.
yeah, HS replay data, and he's like, okay, well, obviously something happened. And then Shockey popped in and was like, yep, you are correct. We've adjusted class offering rates for the duration of dual class arena to be about triple. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. So if not for Taro's post, uh, there would probably be no announcement or confirmation. We can't even call this an announcement. This is definitely not an announcement. It is a post in a not that popular subreddit, and up to this point, still the general public probably does not know any of this because
Uh,
there was no official announcement.
Yeah, but if you've been playing the arena, you would notice something different because the important thing happened, right? Like communication aside, the important thing is that they actually did change the arena, which I was actually doubtful they were going to do, given that BlizzCon's coming up. But about, I guess it's a little less than a week after the initial dual class arenas launch, they quote unquote fixed it to what it probably should have been the entire time, which is having some kind of class card bonus. So now it feels a lot better. It's still very tempo based. There's no more bucket system. So if in the week before that you were playing, you're like, oh, the getting rid of buckets really sucked, or you were like, oh, getting rid of flame strikes and like the core class identity cards really sucks. Well, now's the time to go in again and see how much you like this arena, because this is how arena should be without buckets and without basic and classic cards. Like this is very close, I think, to the arena that will be there, assuming they keep some version of these bonuses around when dual classes even goes away, because I don't think the dual class part is having that big of an impact on the arena right now, besides making things a little less readable. uh the general pacing, right? The amount of 2 drops you need, the amount of 3 drops you need, how 1 drops fit into things, how many times you get removed off the board. That's all much more in line with what we expected and what we were used to than how things were in the very first week of the dual class event. So anything we said before the dual class event about predictions that were not true in the first week, they're true now. Um, you're in this meta now. It's more or less what we thought it was because we had thought that the old class card adjusts were going to be in. This is actually a slightly higher amount of class bonus than we had than the old system. Like than the 50-50 system. I'm gonna say 50-50 system. It's the 50% for class cards plus 50% for spells system that we had before. So this new X3 system is a little bit more generous on the class cards than the old system, but overall you get the same type of feel.
Yeah, games definitely feel a lot more like, I don't know, Hearthstone instead of just neutral stone, right? What people were calling the old meta, in which if you had one drops, two drops, and then you had a little bit of a snowball, whether it was through Fungal Mancer or Bone Mare or some other thing, you probably just won. You never played around anything. You never ever played around anything. And now you can actually think about playing around some stuff because they appear a decent amount, like an amount that behooves you to actually think about some cards instead of previously, in which if you thought about stuff, you were at a disadvantage for thinking about those things.
Yep. So that's where that is right now. Yeah. So where are we right now in terms of the meta? If you haven't been playing at all, we have a meta in which two drops definitely matter, as we expected it to. Once you get rid of the bucket system, you're able to build less synergistic decks, and then a lot of things that are very normal to classic arena start mattering again. You need 6 2 drops, 5 if you have like a rogue hero power or something, or if you're trying to play a really slow deck. But generally, fast on the board decks work better now. So you need at least 5. 2 drops, probably 6. 1 drops are not that great, except for the overpowered 1 drops. Like your zombie chows are still amazing. Your whatever that paladin like 1/1 divine shield taunt. Like your good 1 drops are still good. Your bad 1 drops are still bad. Your 3 drops are fine. They're pretty normal. Your 4 drops are pretty normal. Nothing much to say there, but you basically have to have a curve. If you look at the classes that are winning a lot right now, they're Paladin and Warrior set at the top, and they're classes with weapons, really good weapons. Warriors have Fool's Bane. They have I don't even know what else right now. The 4 mana one that deals that's a 2/2 and Whirlwind
Blood
Slice.
Razor and Death Bite.
Oh yeah, Deathspite, that's the big one. So they also have Deathspite, and they have Nazath's First Mate, which is not really a weapon, but it comes with a weapon. That stuff is very important. Paladins, of course, have Vine Cleaver as their big, giant game-finishing weapon, but they also have Rallying Blade, and they also have Cog Hammer and Muster for Battle. So they're all elite tier weapons, and all of them, like even if you don't think they're too amazing, like Rally Blade, I don't think most people think that it's like a super premium card. It's getting super premium win rates because weapons are just that good. Remember that back in the day when Warriors had no good cards. This is before Arena Warriors matters, right? Like when Warriors in Classic Arena just had no good cards outside of like a Fiery War Axe and their weapons in the arena, and they were like bad but okay with zero support. It was only after Blizzard released 4 expansions with progressively worse warrior cards that warriors started to really feel it. So in this iteration of the arena, you have those expansions, but you also have a lot of expansions afterwards in which warriors had some really insanely good cards too. So they're pretty good base starting classes to use because of the weapons, and the weapons are good because they're one very flexible, right? You can go for face, or you can go and remove a minion with it, which is what you normally should do. And 2, they just get you the board. Anytime you are even on the board, you put a weapon out there, like 4 mana to deal 4 damage twice, right? 4 mana for 8 damage, that'll get you the board. Just anytime you want. So those are very good things in a board centric meta.
Yep. I don't know. So how long do we have for the rest of this meta? Like a week, right? We have about a week left,
Yeah,
two
so the
weeks
whole
left.
meta is 3 weeks. You have
Yeah.
1 week of the neutral meta, which was a terrible, terrible mistake that I don't know why they let happen. Then we have this, well, okay, maybe not like another week, like a week and a half. So it's a 3.5 week meta. The first week was basically lost. Then we've had a week now of this meta as it is intended, and we will have another week and a half of it. So enjoy what you can. We don't know what happens afterwards. They the announcement, not the announcement, the response from Chalky wasn't the 3x system for class cards, which would be like if you go back to how Classic worked. Classic Arena had a 2x modifier on class cards, not 3x. And Chalky specifically said the 3x modifier was to fit in with the theme of the dual class arena to, incentivize more, like to have more crazy class combinations and different hero powers and whatever. So I'm guessing, just a guess, that that's going to go back down to 2x at the end of this event. But who knows? They could keep it. They could not do anything with it. Chalky very specifically said just for the event it will be 3x. So if they get rid of it, and then there's no bonus whatsoever again, you're going to be back. It doesn't matter if it's a dual class event or whatever event. It's going to be back to your regular plain old neutral meta that you were in a week ago, and that's bad. So I think they would. I think whatever happens, they at least recognize that that was bad and doesn't work, and they won't go back to that. But what they want to do versus what they actually do, I think there's also a gap there because I highly doubt that they wanted to do what they did at the launch of the dual class arena because that makes no sense. Like, no one sitting in a room without even having played a game would think that's a good idea. Definitely no one who's played a few arena runs with those rule sets in an internal testing system would have thought that was a good idea. And yet it happened. So I think it was just people being asleep at the wheel on the implementation, or not getting a message to the right person on time, or all that stuff. And yeah, that could happen again, but at least from a design perspective, I don't think anyone at Blizzard. I think everyone saw what happened a week ago, and there will be a class bonus, if not immediately, then very very quickly when the rotation happens again in a week and a half.
There definitely should be, because if nothing else, we talked about this weeks before, things get pretty boring and pretty neutral because you are taking out the class defining basic and classic sets. So you can make it more interesting by upping the rates of interesting cards, but you have to do that. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, yeah, it just gets really, really homogenous. It's going to be homogenous anyways. Like,
Yep.
I think right now people are not realizing how boring the meta is going to be and how homogenous it is, because you do have dual classes, and every once in a while you see some crazy combos that are just never supposed to exist because Wizard does not anticipate mixing class cards that much. So afterwards, and right now I think people are sort of just like, oh, it's an event, it doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
which it doesn't. But afterwards, if a lot of people will have a shift in that in their thinking, it's like, okay, this is, you know, the real game now, and the real game might be quite disappointing for some people.
And the real game's only going to be around for 4 weeks if you call it the real game, because it's just the month of November before we get an expansion and then the rotation happens again. But this is the post bucket system, right? This is Blizzard looking around, trying to test out a few rules, trying to pitch some ideas about, a lot of these are not new ideas, they're kind of old ideas, but just trying to make the system work again. I don't know why they didn't just go back to the old 2x system, like right off the bat at least, instead of doing like 1x. Um, but uh, but yeah, there's going to be some growing pains, and I'm guessing there's something else that's in the works right now for what Blizzard's going to do with the arena, whether it's offering rates or micro adjust or something bigger. Just because there's got to be something that replaces buckets. You don't want to go like just fully backwards. It's not going to be a better system if you do like your 2x system again, right? Like it's 2014. This is not like Blizzard did not do all this stuff in the arena just to bring it back to 2014 when everyone was like, yeah, the arena rules are not perfect, but we're still all new at the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back into the dual class arena meta, I know we don't talk too much into it because it's hard to talk about classes when there's 72 classes. And generally, on the board play is where it's at. We're at the point now where we're getting close enough to, well, we're actually exceeding the amount of messiness that was in old classic arena. So what that means is you should be prepared to get wiped off the board once. If you're talking about the meta that existed like a month ago, you should have been prepared to get wiped off the board at least twice in every game, possibly 3 times if you had a good deck or if you had a slow deck. Um, in like the neutral meta, for example, you should not expect to get wiped off the board at all ever. Like there was like a 5% to 10% chance you'd ever get wiped off the board if you controlled it, because those cards don't exist, and they're offered like terribly like small amount. Well, now those cards exist again. So, yeah, once. I'd say right now the meta feels like you get wiped off the board once, have a plan, right? Have a way to spam a bunch of tempo back onto the board to take it, or a way to punish your opponent for being on the board. Yeah,
Yay.
I could
I
tell
don't
you're
know.
very excited about this meta.
I can't really. This is like, no matter what it is, it's a temporary meta. I don't really care so much for it. Like, this is, for some people, it's fun. For me, I'm just like, not even having that much fun with it, just because class identity is like pretty much gone. And class identity is going to be gone when the dual classes end. But even now, it's like you don't really have an identity. It's like just a lot of wacky stuff. I do think about cards now. I think about some class cards and some AoEs, especially if it's like two classes that both have AoEs. For example, if it's like Shaman Warlock or something, then at least on a big grand scale, I can think, okay, well, this player probably has a decent amount of initiative and AoE, and I should play accordingly like that. But it's I can't get like super excited about it. That's me. That's it. That's my hot take.
Yeah. I think the meta's like not that bad right now, I'll say. Like compared to most dual class arenas, this one is actually at the like after they fixed it, it's actually better than the normal dual class arena experience. Because it is new, you do feel like you're learning something, especially if you assume that they're going to do things like this. Not dual class, but like just the lack of bucket system and how the metas look. You are learning and readjusting yourself into that kind of meta, and I think that will pay dividends. Unless they bring buckets back, it's going to be more similar stuff to this coming up in the future. Like this isn't the end of it. This is the what Merps was talking about, class identity. Yeah, class identity is probably going to come back when the expansion launches and they bring back standard. But the pace is going to be not terribly different. I think once you get rid of buckets, you're going to need 2 drops. Like that's where things stand, because at some point you're going to need a backstop on the terrible cards being offered to you, and that's going to be like 2 drops.
Yep.
They're a very good keeper of your normal value. Like if you look at win rates right now on HS Replay, it's really interesting. A whole crap ton of not very great 2 drops are like doing insanely well. Now HS Replay always I don't want to say like over reports those win rates, because they're literally just reporting the win rates they get. But your 2 drops matter more the less good of a player you are. So if you're looking at it, and the HS Replay is 4.5 win per run players. So, to a better player, it's not like as important. Like right now, 2 drops on HS Replay look like you're like auto drafting them unless you're taking a premium card. That's not the case. It's really more like the people who don't draft enough 2 drops don't have functional decks. So the people who realize it are usually like the better / more experienced players in this meta, and also it's a proxy, right? Like if you have 7 2 drops, that means you don't have a hole in your 2 drops, and your run's gonna do okay at least. Whereas if you have 3 2 drops, your run's gonna be terrible. And those 2 drops will and the missing 2 drops, right? That's where the win rates go. So it's an interesting system, but I wouldn't make too much of the win rates. Like if you're comparing the win rates and you're looking at a 2-drop on HS replay and you're looking at another card that you think is better than that 2-drop and you have enough 2-drops right now, don't take the 2-drop. The extra 2-drop is not what's helping you. The win rates are coming from the fact that you need at least enough 2-drops. Like at least 5 minimum. Probably 6 would be a better number. Like don't take your 8th 2-drop over a card that is, above a 100 on our tier list. Do you want
Yeah,
to say something?
yeah. So I don't want people to think that just because of this, it's like you can't really play the way that you played before. Curve is still really, really good. You still are able to play around a lot of the AoEs just because a lot of them are still fairly expensive. There's some cheap ones, obviously. Potion of Madness is one that's really, really cheap. Defile is something you really can't play around lots of times because even if you avoid it, lots of times there's just that one gap and they can fill in that gap and then defile you. But there is still a lot of value in, or there's still a lot of opportunity there to get underneath your opponents, put a lot of pressure on them. The hard thing is, reach is really, really tough to find nowadays because there was a lot of reach in the basic and classic
Yes.
sets.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the one of the toughest parts. But if you can get them down, and if your deck does have a little bit of reach, and there's sources of neutral reach out there along with class reach. So for example, if you're shaman, you still have your weapons, and you still have your like Jade and Lightning.
Crackle.
You still have your Crackle. If you have some neutral cards, just something like a Fire Plume Phoenix with 2 damage, that's pretty decent as well. So you still have your sources there. You just got to play a little bit smarter now. And if you are looking at certain classes, you might want to think about, all right, well, what are their AoE options? Because the strongest minions these days still tend to be fairly neutral. So in terms of powerful minions, you're still going to be looking at, the tar creepers on 3, violent worms on 8s, filling the gaps for all those in between. But you do want to be thinking of spells and weapons. Those are going to be the power cards. So if you want to simplify things, you can think of minions. The most prominent and powerful ones are still going to be your neutral minions, and then spells, especially AOE's. Outside of Primordial Drake, which is not seen too often now, because it is epic. Outside of like stuff like something like a Primordial Drake, you won't see that much neutral AoE and powerful neutral AoE. So think about the class AoEs that you're facing, and then think about, okay, how expensive are they? And then you'll find that it's actually not too hard to get underneath those decks. And if you play smartly, you can still get there. I definitely don't want people to think that because of the significantly increased class offering rates, that it's like, all right, well, the way I was playing before just doesn't work anymore.
No,
Now
no,
you actually have to think.
it's
Yeah.
the opposite. You're still like that's why you want 6 2-drops. Like you need to be on the board fighting for the board. You need to be making your pushes. Uh, your board clears are still much more rare than in a normal meta. Like I don't know the exact numbers, but they feel significantly less offered than in the bucket system, that you would see, and your punishment for going aggressive in terms of the giant taunts. Most of the giant taunts that you're really afraid of outside of Paladin and Warrior, 2 of the top 3 classes, and they also have the best reach in this game now. Just like if you're trying to isolate why Paladins and Warriors are the top 2 classes, and throw Priest in there as well, there's no one reason. They just got pretty much everything, um, and that it's everything put together that's making them all that strong. But definitely don't think that this is. I don't know. I hope I haven't given the impression that it's at all a slow meta in terms of the board. It's a very fast meta on the board. There's a lot more things there's a lot more dead turns at the end than you'll normally see where the game's already decided, but the game drags on for 10 more turns. Um, I think people have understood that now. I think more recently, I've seen more people just concede against me rather than having a drag on. Whereas in the first week, everyone's like, play to the bitter end, even though I have literally a 0% chance of winning. Um, but yeah, it's aggressive. The whole meta is aggressive. Everyone's aggressive. So when Merps is in get under people, you can try to get under people. You won't get under them. You'll get to generally where they are. Like if you're playing over 5 wins, because that's where the meta is. To get under them, you need like a whole bunch of 1 drops, and more importantly, to get under them, what you really need are like extra tempo plays in your first like 5 turns, which are weapons and pretty much nothing else. So you gotta pick those classes. Like Paladin and Warrior really have it all. Priest has a lot of tools too, like Talon Priest for that tempo or like buffs. But yeah. What else? Oh, the one last change that was made that we talked about briefly last week, but I want to highlight more now. It's that you see a lot more legendary cards now. When they removed the bucket system and everything, they also swapped around the way rarities worked. We don't know exactly how rarities work now, but um, like I think the old system of you see significant you could think of it this way. You see a lot more commons than you see rares, you see a lot more rares than you see epics, you see a lot more epics than you see legendaries. But you see a lot more legendaries now than you used to. That number has definitely gotten multiplied up. What do you think about that? Like for the long term, not for this particular like event meta where I don't really think it, anyone thinks it matters.
You know, here's the way I think of it. If I'm a long-time serious arena player, I don't think I care as much. But I think that if people know that there was more legendaries, you could potentially get more casuals to play. And I think interest, because those are things that people are interested in, right? It's like, oh, I have a chance at getting like a 2 to 3 legendary deck. That's pretty cool. So I don't mind it so much. Like legendaries, a lot of times are just weird. They don't actually make that huge of a difference. And I don't think anyone is really sort of crying out that like, oh, Ragnaros is ruining the arena. So something like that, and I know Rag is gonna eventually phase out after after the event, anyways. But yeah, I don't mind it so much. I don't think it's really a problem. And like for the people that really care about the arena, I don't think it's that problematic. And for the casuals, I think they just kind of enjoy the increased chances of having something wacky happen.
Yeah, I really like the change of having more legendaries in the arena, and you might be surprised to hear that because we trash on high swing stuff, and legendaries are usually high swing stuff so much. But there's a difference between legendaries now and legendaries back 4 years ago, because 4 years ago there were a very small contained set of high swing cards, and you need to play around that specific set. It is about 3 class cards per class. You play around them. That means you were a knowledgeable arena player. I hesitate to say good because it's not that hard to play around those 3 cards usually for each class, but you do have to know it, right? It's like meta knowledge for the arena. And once you introduce legendaries in there at any significant rate, it throws all that out the window because there's a whole bunch of legendaries, and they all like a whole lot of them make ridiculous swings that are you can't prepare for, and it adds a whole lot of RNG to it. But since Classic has happened, we now live in a world where there's a million cards that swing the game by itself with no support in crazy ways, right? Like Defile exists in this game. So does Spikeridge Steed. So does Vine Cleaver. And in the wild rotation meta, or like a pure wild arena meta, you would have to account for somehow like all of these things in your play. So at that point, the legendaries aren't really adding that much more messiness to the game in a way that changes the skill level from meta knowledgeable players can handle it and meta knowledgeable but other people can't, to like no one can handle it. It has nothing to really do with how much you know the meta. And when it doesn't have that much to do with how much you know the meta, when it comes to dealing with swings, then you're dealing with swings mostly on a category basis. Like, I know he doesn't have a hard removal. I know he doesn't have a board clear, right? Rather than a specific card example. Like, I know he doesn't have an assassinate slash sap. I know he doesn't have a flame strike. And when you get out of the specifics into the generals, the legendaries just fit into the general categories just as well or as poorly as the vast majority of high swing class cards. And in that case, when it comes to skill, the legendaries no longer in today's meta or in the meta from a month ago when there were buckets or in next month's meta, they don't have as big of a negative impact. And when they don't have as big of a negative impact, then it's just a pure preference thing.
Yeah.
And people like legendaries. I don't know why. I think
they're cool.
They're more complicated than they're worth.
They have fancy introductions.
They do. I do like the animations. That's fair. I do like the animations of the legendaries. And yeah. And now that there's no more bucket systems, you're not going to see the same legendaries around all the time. Because before, when there were like 6 total half buckets, basically 3 buckets for legendaries, you had the same choices offered to you all the time. Whenever you get a legendary offering. So if they like up the legendaries back then, it would kind of get annoying. You would kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna offer these choices all the time. But now it's no more buckets, right? So they can be a little looser with it. And I like the change. I hope it stays around after dual class, especially if it means that it'll get more casuals to play in the arena or just generally have more of the Hearthstone population, play in an arena run here and there.
Yep. I think we're in agreement on that. Legendaries are they're fine. We've never really thought any legendaries were that problematic, even during the Death Knight era.
I mean, we were the strong supporters of Death Knights not being too weird for this game.
Yeah,
like, I mean, we didn't like it, but we hated a lot of other things more. It was like, I don't know. They were the unfair boogeymen that people were targeting because they didn't prepare for them. People seemed incapable of putting into effect the idea that you have to prepare for a Death Knight 3 turns before a Death Knight can come out.
It's an easy scapegoat.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's like I wouldn't have lost but for the Death Knight. That's basically it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's basically it. I like the change. I think it's fine. I have been getting a ton of legendaries as well. They haven't really done anything. Most of the time, it's like one of the princes. So I'll have a 3 mana 3/3, 4 mana 4/4, or I don't know. You just pick a lot of really bad ones. And every once in a while, you'll see someone able to cash in a little bit on their legendary, like Professor Putricide with a secret, something like that. And it's fine.
It's not a huge swing.
We've seen much bigger swings than that, so
yep,
that's okay.
Psychic Scream is in this game. Defile is in this game.
I know.
Coghammer's in this game. Hell, Nazatha's First Mate is in this game.
Even just a neutral, like a Primordial Drake.
Yeah.
Lots of times the swing from a Primordial Drake is bigger than a Professor Putricide followed by a secret.
Yeah, so. By far. Lich King's back.
Lich King is back. Although, I mean, yeah, and the randomness is insane, not just in what you get, but how useful is that for your situation.
Yep.
Because sometimes their HP is so low that Frostborn doesn't do anything, etc., etc. But anyways.
All right. Anything else you want to add? I think we're going to try to keep this a really short Lightforge. This may be our shortest Lightforge ever. I do want to.
Gosh.
Yeah, if you have nothing more to add, let's go on to the question from the GOAT, and I'll give a shout out.
All right, let's do it.
Question from the GOAT. Do you have one?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask you, how much are you playing Diablo 2 Remaster when it comes out?
Okay. Question from the GOAT's going to be about other games that are not Hearthstone or Gods Unchained. Okay. So last Friday we were not playing Hearthstone. We had a co-op stream the entire way through, which is rare these days for a Friday. But we were playing Risk of Rain, which Merps has apparently played a lot of. Like, I knew you were playing a lot of Risk of Rain, but I didn't realize like the degree, like the amount of experience you built up in that game.
I do not sleep I
All
just
right.
play Risk of Rain.
So I was a total noob and it was pretty fun. We may be doing more stuff like that. Like I feel like this is maybe not immediately, maybe it'll happen more over the course of the next year, but I feel like we're gonna try to put in more non-Hearthstone streams here and there, while still keeping most of our streams Hearthstone until Diablo 2. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's been announced. It's been leaked by a credible source. If you haven't heard, that Diablo 4 is coming out, is going to be announced at BlizzCon, and so is Diablo 2. Like I don't know,
Remaster.
remastered,
Yeah.
enhanced edition, whatever they're doing with it. And they're doing it because last year Diablo Immortal was announced, so they're trying to atone for their sins. This is gonna be a real interesting BlizzCon. If you don't know me and Merps, we are Diablo players, not Hearthstone players. We became Hearthstone players, but really at our core, we are Diablo 2 players. And we did a lot of damage when Diablo 3 came out. Like, we all, like, Merps, me, two of our other friends, just lived in my apartment in Long Island City for a week,
Your
didn't
apartment smelled
shower,
bad. It smelled real bad.
it normally doesn't smell that good, so we got takeout, delivery. Takeout
We
involves
ate
going
a
out there
lot
to
of
get it.
burritos. Oh
Oh, good
man,
burritos. Thai
tons of
food.
burritos.
Oh, so good. Merps was a personal trainer, or trying to be a personal trainer at that point. He wasn't one yet, but like he made us work out like once a day, and that was our thing. And by our thing, I mean our one activity that was not Diablo 3.
When we opened up that door, man, that gust of wind that came in, it's oof. Yikes.
Uh,
Yes, it has been leaked that Diablo 2 remaster and Diablo 4 are going to be announced. The Diablo 4 announcement, according to the source, by the way, this is the source that actually confirmed Ash in Overwatch as well. So this source actually seems to know something about
Also, I
things
want to believe
that
the
are
source
coming
is
out.
real, so the source is real until proven otherwise.
I know. Uh, Blizzard is going to essentially say, "Hey, we are working on Diablo 4 just to, let you
Yeah.
know that there is hope."
Yeah, and they're
Uh,
gonna show some like I don't think it's gonna be just like a tease. Like they're gonna show some graphics and stuff too, like art concepts and things, just to assure people that Diablo 4 is going to be like the dark whatever thing that everyone wants.
but Diablo 2 remaster, if that happens, I am jumping in like I am diving straight in. First of all, I hope it's patch 1.09 before they put in all the fancy rune words. And yes, I know what patch I want. Okay. I know specifically what patch I want for them to do this remaster. Okay. LOD patch 1.09.
Of
That's when they
course.
introduced all of the really good unique items, but before all the rune words took over and made all those unique items
I mean,
irrelevant.
1.09. I think if you're a true D2 fan, like a D2 LLD fan, you know 1.09 is where it's at.
1.09 is where they looked at the game and it's like, this isn't really what we want the game to be. 1.09, this is, and then someone went crazy and it was just like, hey, all those cool unique items we made in 1.09, we're gonna make rune words better than every single one of them in
Yeah.
1.10. I'm like, why did you do that? Why? What? Anyways, for all those items, okay, like Shakos, all right. SOJ has been around forever, but the Shakos, and like just oh god, all the iconic items. Storm Shield. I have
My
so
friend,
many
what
that
was
I
your
want to
first
talk about.
legendary in D2?
Very first
Very first
legendary
legendary.
that
Uh huh.
that I found,
Yeah.
like in
In
D2.
D2. Gambling doesn't count that you found in the
No,
wild.
it was actually Tarnhelm.
You found a
I
Tarnhelm?
found
God
a
damn it.
Tarnhelm. It was a 46% Tarnhelm. This was when, because of Blizzard's like spaghetti code, essentially. So Tarnhelm is supposed to go from 25% to 50% magic find, but because of something that they wrote, it could never reach 50%.
Yeah.
Like all the variable ones that could go from like, for example, 5 to 10% or 25% to 50, the last number was always invalid. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
never spawn that. So 49% was the highest. So like my 46% one was actually pretty freaking good. And I was really happy about
And
that.
this is
Found a
Merps.
ton.
All he cares about is Magic Find.
dude, I am gonna be the Magic Find Goblin. Be prepared for 8-hour streams of Nightmare Meth runs over and over and over again. Also, if we play, it's only hardcore.
Well, I mean, if we play, obviously it's only hardcore. But when we, oh, you're saying we're just gonna start at hardcore?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I mean, I feel confident enough in
You
our
think you don't
million
have enough
hours.
knowledge about
But you know, they'll
Diablo?
change like one little thing and it'll screw you over, right? Especially if you're confident that you know how this game works. They can change one little tiny thing and it's gonna wipe away like 2,000 hours of your progress.
Well, here's the thing that people are questioning. So the whole entire combat mechanic, but also you can see how excited I am because during the Hearthstone talk, I was like, yeah, all right, dual class, and now I'm just like, oh, 1.09. People are wondering because the damage in Diablo 2 was directly tied to the frame rates,
Right.
but you can't
Don't
do
just
that.
don't translate it. That's so easy.
Yeah, well, the entire battle mechanic, like
Yes.
faster cast rate,
Yes. All
all
the
of that
mechanics.
stuff,
They just translate it.
all
That's
the
all they have to do.
yeah, I mean, they have to redo it, right? And this is part of
Well,
like
they're
what
gonna
you have to
redo it
do.
anyway. I don't think they're gonna use the exact same numbers. So, however
Yeah,
good
yeah.
1.09 was, it was still imbalanced. Like,
Well, yeah.
it was
I mean,
better than any version before that by like so much, but by today's standards of how action RPGs are balanced, it's terribly imbalanced.
you had stupid breakpoints, right? In terms of like
Not even
huge
breakpoints, just like
diminishing returns as
how
well.
useful things are. Like it's the difference between your top skills and your like second tier skills were ridiculously huge. And there were at least still 25% of skills I think that were utterly useless.
About 25%. I mean, it got better because they had the
The
within
synergy.
skill
Yeah,
synergies,
yeah, but
right?
even with the synergies, there was 25% that were utterly useless.
I mean, that's kind of like other games as well. There's always going to be skills that no one uses, right? Just because, meh. I think that's
Like utterly
always going to be.
useless. I mean, like you couldn't even creatively use them because that's what I like doing, right? I like creating creative character builds that uses random skills people don't use. Like I couldn't even deal with 25% of the skills.
I think in RPGs, there's always going to be skills in which, if you're looking at any sort of high level play or min maxing, it's going to be a
Not
no.
even like
But
min
some people
maxing,
actually
right?
want
Like
to have
soft
fun
min
with it.
maxing. Like you couldn't even soft min max it. You take D3 right now, you could soft min max and use every single skill. You're not gonna like super hardcore min max it, but
Wait,
you
what
could
do you
get
mean soft min max? Because
like
there's a huge
like
difference in
like
D3 of use because if you use any other skill, you like your cap for your greater rifts is so much lower than the optimized skills. So
well, yeah, I just mean like your potential. Okay, so if the difference between your top skill and your top tier skills and your second tier skills is 1%, that's different than the difference between the top tier skills and your second tier skills being 4%, right? In
sure.
Diablo, the percentage is not 1 or 4%. In Diablo 2, the difference was like nearly like it wasn't quite 50, but it was like at least 30 between your like top tier and your bottom tier, and that's you can't make it work basically at the top. Like I get it, if you were
So
gonna make the top really really hard, you do need to min max, and you're not gonna like it. And even a slightly inefficient build isn't going to cut it the same way. But
yeah, I get what you mean. Diablo 3 is just a really bad example, just because the delta that you're talking about, it's actually the most pronounced in Diablo 3.
really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
between
Or
like
Diablo 3 now. You haven't been keeping up.
okay,
And part of it is just because there are so many items as well. Like the synergy to build up one of these skills is insane, such that your second tier skills, because it's not kind of like supported by your belt and your gloves that do this thing that like
right? So
goes
they
on top
didn't
of that
make
thing.
items that support your other spells the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
like
but that doesn't.
if you
I'm not
want
talking
your
about items. I'm literally just talking about the skills. Like I don't think you're like we are always on different pages when you talk about this because you min max. I never min max, which is weird if
well,
you know
but
me and what I do in
you're
Hearthstone.
talking about min
I'm not
maxing. It's
talking
like
about min
hard min
maxing. I'm talking
maxing
about
versus
soft min
soft min
maxing.
maxing.
That's
No,
like
but you're using min max.
that's like saying is the tier list telling you what the best cards are, right? Like I would say yes, but does that mean you pick that card all the time? No, right? That's the distinction I'm getting at. Like if I create a tier list of the skills without reference to items, like the percentage that's in there. You're
You do
talking about the real
understand
world application.
the difficulty of using the word min max and saying that you're not
That's
min
why I'm saying
maxing.
soft min max. That's why I'm saying soft.
All right, okay. Anyways, so guys, this is going to be announced. I'm going to be playing a ton of Diablo 2 remaster when it does come out, and Diablo 4 when it comes out in 2030. But
Yep. But
I'm
seriously, when Diablo 2 Remastered comes out, get ready for 7 days a week goat streams for like longer than what we currently do a single stream now between Merps and I. Probably like most of them are co-op too. It's gonna be insane. And unless they release, like if they release it when a Hearthstone expansion launches, I'll probably still play some Hearthstone. But if they release it at a time when Hearthstone's like right now, like it's in kind of a dead time, I don't know. I may take like a whole month off from Hearthstone for the first time.
I'm taking off of work just to play Diablo.
Okay, you have
You
3 months of vacation. All right, you
you
could
can
take
play
match time.
Hearthstone. Look, you can play Hearthstone. All right, Hearthstone in 2020. Lol. But I will be playing Diablo 2. I'm gonna make a
Diablo
Frozen
2 in
Orb
2020.
Diablo 2 remaster. Look,
Uh,
Diablo 2 is timeless, man. Diablo 2, I'm gonna create my Frozen Orb Meteor Sorceress and rush to get all Magic Find items ASAP, and then just do Nightmare Mephrons until I can equip all my other characters. Excellent.
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna
40
start with.
SOJs for Wind Force, baby. Woo!
Yeah, so they're gonna change all the numbers. Your Blizzard Meteor Sork may not be the min max anymore. Um, just be prepared. If you're going to min max, you're literally at the mercy of whatever the developers put as numbers in their translated system. And it could look a bit different than what you were thinking. I don't think Orb, like, they're not going to make any previously OP skill bad. It's going to all be good, but it may not be the min max option anymore.
All right, fine. I'll make my like Frost Nova Glacial Shard Sork then. I don't know. I'll figure it
You'll
out.
figure it
I
out.
will
But your
pour
first
time into
shot
it.
is not going to, like, unless they allow you to reset skill points, which they might, your first shot may not work. You
Well,
know?
they have that in D2 now.
Do they?
Resetting skill
You could
points.
just
Yeah.
reset your skill points. Okay. Well, then you could just reset your skill points and respec them to the actual optimal mode every patch.
You have 3 shots. They put in a quest for it.
You have 3 shots. So
Yeah, yeah.
after 3 patches, you have to make a new character.
What? Wait, what do you mean?
Well, each patch that happens, your optimal min max is going to be different. Presumably, assuming they're like changing stuff in the patches.
Well, I mean, with the patches, I don't. Like I don't know.
They
Maybe.
may give you another one. Okay, whatever.
Who knows?
My point being, don't be too specific in your hopes. I'm probably gonna make a cookie cutter build for my first one to like equip all my other characters, but that'll be the only one. I only ever have one cookie cutter build that like does normal stuff, and everything else is gonna be like Warcry barbs and like poison Javazons. I love my poison Javazon. It's like a 2 hours to progress like one map. It's great.
All right, that's it.
That's it. That's it for the
done.
Lightforge podcast. That was a question from the GOAT. We're very excited about Diablo 2. That's coming out sometime next year, I hope. But we're still Hearthstone for now, and Merps is really not in this Hearthstone thing. But really, the meta at Hearthstone right now is not bad. It's like miles better than it was a week ago when we last did the podcast. And we're gonna jump in the meta after this with we have to do Rogue. Rogue is normally the best class, but in this meta, it's like the worst class because you can't get the Rogue hero power, and we're gonna have to play our Rogue. Anyway, shout out to our patrons, top patrons: 4P, Afro Ninja, TB, Brand New, Changan, Joshua C, Eric L, and RV Night Train. Thank you guys very much. Until next week, this is the Lightforge with Adwicta.
Bye. This is Merps. Bye.